Maybe it sounds mean or manipulative to trick people into mentoring you, but this has happened to me a few times. Both I have been tricked into mentoring other people, and I've kind of done it myself to others. And as you are growing your business in the creator economy as a creator, as a business owner, you're going to need mentorship. Today, I want to talk about some stories about how I've been tricked as well as how I've tricked others so that you can get the mentorship you need, sometimes for free, that will be invaluable to actually growing your business. Hey everyone, welcome back to Creator Business Labs. My name is Tim Schmoyer. It is great to hang out with you again for this episode because Jordan sent an audio voice message that just asked such a good question. Here's the voice message that Jordan left.
Hey, Tim, in your journey from being a youth pastor to then building and selling a business, I imagine that there were some key people involved in mentoring you and helping you along the way. My question is for you, how have those mentorship relationships developed over the years? And then to apply it to all of us, how do we ask for mentorship and then become the kind of person who our mentors are excited to help? Thank you.
Jordan, that is such a good question. Thank you so much for asking that. And I'm excited to answer it because one, I'm going to get to share some stories about the very foundational years of my business and some ways that I tricked some other people into mentoring me that actually really helped it to grow and become successful. And I'm also, number two, excited because hopefully, Jordan, by the end of this, you're going to have some very practical tips and ideas for how you can get mentorship and also be mentored and become the type of person who those people are excited to mentor. And then number three, you're going to hear from guys, all of you, you're going to hear from a guy named Andrew who tricked me into mentoring him. And I didn't actually even realize it until I was putting the notes together for this episode. And then I reached out to him like, dude, you totally did this. Like, all right, help other people understand how you did this with me, how you get free mentoring from me, and help them be able to do the same. So you're going to hear from him also. But first of all, I just want to, before we jump into this conversation, I get to share some stories and have some fun with you. I just want to remind you that mentoring doesn't have to look a certain way. Sometimes when we think about mentoring, or maybe it's just me, but I think mentoring is when you sit down with someone and you're paying them an exorbitant amount of money for them to kind of be halfway interested and kind of give you some tips and ideas, and then that's it, right? I wouldn't say that's mentoring, but it can look a lot of different ways. It could look like sitting down and just wrestling through some things together. But it could look more like some other thing, like a Gandalf, or you're just hanging out with them all the time, and you're just picking up bits of wisdom and things, right? So as we go through this, as I've been thinking about this, how have I been mentored in the early years of my business, and what kind of shape do those mentorship relationships take? How did they start? How did they form? And how did I really glean the information from them that I really wanted to? And as I was thinking through the stories, this first person I want to talk about who mentored me, I don't even think they really know that they mentored me. I don't know that they're really even thinking about it in terms of mentorship, because sometimes mentorships are just you just find someone who's got some ideas or who's further ahead with their success than you are, and you just find ways to be around them. So back in 2011, I believe it was, I lost my job as a youth pastor at a church. And it was a very hard, difficult time for my life. I started making money. The only thing I had at the time, the asset I had at the time, was this online blog and this small YouTube channel. And I'm like, all right, I got to make it work. I've been learning about this, been studying this, I've been teaching this to other people. Now, we're on, And so as I was doing that, I got this email from this guy named Jeremy Pryor from Cincinnati area. I was living up in Minnesota at the time. And it's like, hey, Tim, I keep running into you online for your youth ministry stuff, for your YouTube stuff. Let's talk. We need to have a conversation. And so he was one of the partners at a video agency here in Cincinnati, and they wanted someone to do YouTube strategy for their clients. And so I flew down here for the weekend to Cincinnati and checked it out. And I had an experience with the people here that was very different. I was like, I feel like they actually care. They live and think way more intentionally and purposeful than I'm used to thinking or living. And I went home to my wife back in Minnesota at the end of the weekend, and I said, the job's okay, but I just think these are the types of people we need to be around right now. And so we relocated up and moved after having lived off my blog for 2 years, 2000 or a year and a half, I guess. In 2012, we moved here to Cincinnati, and this guy Jeremy, along with his other business partners at the company, doing something very different than I had ever experienced. Number one, he's like, "Hey Tim, how much money do you need to make a year?" And I'm like, "I think I could get by on like 45,000 a year." Like, I'm trying to think like, what's the minimum I could like make this easy for him? And they're just staring at me. I'm like, "Okay, fine. Like, I think we could do 40, but it would be kind of tight." And he's like, "No, Tim, like if you're working, you're not going to make anything less than 60. I'm like, "What?" It's like, that's not very good negotiating skills. And so I felt so cared for though. Like my family's like, "Tim, you are not doing," this is what he said to me, but as I figured out later, "Tim, you are not doing what your family needs you to do right now." And so I am going to step in and protect your family for your sake and pay you 60,000 a year. And so that was like my first, like, okay, yeah, this is something different here. They actually care about people or something in this business. And then what I found out as we're there is every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, not only does the company provide lunch for all employees, but they provide lunch for all employees and their families. They hired someone 3 times a week to make a home-cooked meal in a big buffet style, and all employees and their families get together and eat every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that was really expensive, I'm sure, for that company. But what it did is it started teaching me like culture matters here, relationships matter here, because not only were my wife and kids coming in to visit me at work 3 times a week, but the coworkers, like their kids and my kids are getting to know each other, and our wives are getting to know each other. And we're having conversations we would never otherwise have. And it just felt like this is the type of community I wish, like I've always been looking for, but didn't know it could actually exist. That gave me a glimpse of like, okay, by working for Jeremy, like business could look and function differently. And so then on other lunches, in between that, typically on Thursdays, I believe, he would have an open lunch or policy, just like, "Hey, bring your lunch. And over lunch, we're going to just read through some Bible passages and we're going to wrestle through these together and just wrestle through like fatherhood issues and leadership issues and things just like that come out of the scripture." And I was like, man, like, okay, so we can have good like faith conversations and this can be a meaningful relationship. And so I was like, this guy has something that I don't have. I can learn a lot about business, about culture, about family, not because he's actually sitting down and doing the one-on-one mentoring thing with me, but just because I'm in his world, just because I'm finding a way to connect with what he's doing and being present in that. And I would say like one of the best ways to be mentored by someone is just find someone who's ahead of where you are. Jeremy's kids are older than my kids, and so my kids are 3 years behind. So I'm hearing the stories of what he's learning and figuring out, going through as his kids, as of this recording, are like married and getting married, and he's having grandkids and things now. And so, who are those people that you just want to absorb from? And I would say you don't need to start a formal mentorship. Just be around them and absorb from them. Pay attention, watch, listen, go up to them and ask questions like, "Hey, I noticed you did this," or "I said you talked to your kid that way," or "You said this about your wife," and just ask questions and not like, "Hey, will you mentor me?" Just learn from them. If you want to learn from Jeremy too, you can, because he has 3 podcasts. I asked him like, "Hey, can I do this?" He's like, "Absolutely." Yeah. He's got 3 podcasts that he's now mentoring on a similar level with his content. You can check out the podcast down below. One is called Family Teams, and that is just like, how do you and your spouse come together as coaches to lead your family team on this mission to accomplishing something better together than you ever could on your own? How do you develop a mission and a vision for your family and do that together? So that podcast is down there. He's got another one called 1,000 Houses Podcast, which is about discipleship making in your town and your community through your family and through homes. And then finally another one called Jeremy Pryor Podcast. This is his personal one where he's mostly talking through things philosophically and how does the world work and why is it this way and not that way, and really interesting things there. So all those links are down in the show notes if you want to be mentored by Jeremy as well. Number 2, though, a little bit later at Epiphio, was the name of the company that he had. After a year, they're like, "Tim, we love you, been awesome, but we're no longer going to be offering YouTube strategy to our clients, and in 6 months from now, you'll no longer have a job." And so That was January 2013. And so another guy there, though, one of the other partners of the business said, Tim, I think you should start a business doing for other people what you've done for us. He's like, use our Wi-Fi, use our resources. You got 6 months here. And like, how can we support you getting this business going? I'm like, wow, I don't know anything about business. Like, I don't even know what a business model is. I don't know what a business plan is. Like, all my background is in like theology and ministry stuff, like not very practical, useful things for business, although that turned out not to be true. But at the time, that's what I was thinking. So I started Video Creators in January 2013. And I remember my last day at that company. It was June 15th, 2013. One of the other guys, his name's Lucas Cole, one of the other partners at the business, said, hey, Tim, let's go take a walk on the parking lot. So we're walking the parking lot. And he's like, Tim, just make it very clear. Today's your last day. Don't come back tomorrow. You have one more paycheck coming. After that, we're done. I'm like, yeah, I know. I was like, but you're hiring some salespeople. Like, could I apply for one of those jobs? And this guy, Lucas, he's like, Tim, you'll never be good at sales. And I'm like, yeah, man, you're right. And he was right. Like, I didn't even really know what sales entailed. I was just trying to like, hey, I'm looking for another job and what can I do here? And Video Creators at that point had not yet taken off to a place where it was sustainable for my family to live full time. And so I left that job, and I very quickly learned in my own business that if you don't have sales, you don't have a business, right? And so I had to start learning sales. I remember I read a book that was very helpful called Pitch Anything, which again is another place you get good mentorship through books and podcasts and things. But mentorship, that's a little less, that's more like content than it is like mentoring. Like mentoring being someone who you can actually interact with at some level, maybe. But yeah, and so it was through that book and through podcasts and learning a lot from other resources. I finally figured out how to get some momentum with sales. And after a year went by of my business, I saw that guy, Lucas, again. I went up, was like, hey, Lucas. He's like, oh, Tim, how you going? It's been a while. And it's like, well, that business, was growing. And you remember how you told me in the parking lot that I would never be good at sales? He's like, no, I don't. He didn't remember saying that. I was like, well, you did. He's like, yeah, it sounds like something I would say. And so I was like, well, at this point, my business, just me, is making over $100,000 a year now. And I think I figured out a few things about sales. He's like, oh, good. Like, good for you, Tim. And I was like, tell me what else I can't do. And he's like, oh, okay. So no, this guy, Lucas, he's way smarter at business than me. I know that. He still is today. And I'm like, I want to learn from this guy. And I probably can't afford him. So it was like, I kind of tricked him, not really on purpose at the time, but it kind of just started as a joke. Like, tell me what else I can't do. And so his next challenge to me was like, Tim, you'll never be able to grow a team. I'm like, yeah, okay. Whew. So I left with that challenge. It took a little while, like, all right, how do I put systems in place that I can hire other people and we can serve people better and generate more resources and income and serve even more creators even better with a team than before? Like, what does that look like? How do I do that? And that was a really big challenge for me. I'd never done any hiring before, let alone hired someone for my own business. And so that one took about a year. And after a year, I went to him and I'm like, okay, hey, Lucas, remember you told me I couldn't hire a team? I wouldn't be able to grow a team. He's like, yeah, I remember this one. He's like, where are you at? I was like, I have a video editor. I have an assistant. I think I have like 2 other full-time people on my team at that point. And I was like, I think I got the team thing down. And he gave me some input, some blind spots I had missed. And I was like, all right, great. Thank you. Tell me what else I can't do. And so his next challenge to me was, Tim, you'll never be able to scale beyond yourself. Your face is the one of the company that everyone wants to work for. All your staff is kind of like supporting staff to you. You'll never be able to kind of step back and let this business be able to grow and thrive on its own. Oh man, he's so right. Because you have a personality-based YouTube channel where people are connecting with you and they trust you to help them with their channel. And you're the one they want to work with to grow and take their channels to the next level and things in my YouTube agency. That was a challenge. And so that one was hard. That one took me a few years to actually work through. And I checked with him a few times. And at the end, a few years later, it was like, hey, I grew up beyond my face and was able to scale this thing. And then as of this recording, 1.5 years ago, I was able to sell the business at a place where it was sellable. And so we sold it to vidIQ, which they've been awesome. But I kind of tricked Lucas into saying like, I did not labeled him as a mentor. what I said is like, I found someone who's willing to challenge me, someone who is willing to tell me like, Tim, it's ugly. Your baby's ugly. like, and here's how you make it look better, you know? And I would challenge you as well to find the people who are willing to say to you, that's not good enough. That's not great. Or here's something you're missing. Someone who's willing to challenge you, someone who has an eye for it and a heart to be open and honest with you and tell you, like, I know your baby's your business and is ugly, is missing things here, there, and the other place. And find people who are willing to challenge you. Shortly after that engagement with Lucas, I started being mentored by someone else. And this is a very different relationship than with Jeremy or with Lucas. This lady, her name's Kim Castle. She came to me looking for YouTube coaching to grow her channel. And she had a very successful business teaching people how to grow online businesses and specifically how to create online brands, very strong online brands, a brand being like, how does someone feel about this company, this brand, this organization? Do they feel positive thoughts? Do they feel like they're reputable? Do they trust them? And so she came to me wanting help with her YouTube channel. And I thought like, wow, I need help with the exact same thing that you're teaching people. Can we do a barter? Can we do like an exchange? And so we did. Like once a month we would meet and we talk about her YouTube channel and I give her YouTube coaching and mentorship. And then 2 weeks later we would meet and we talk about my business. And not only did I learn branding from Kim, but I learned online internet marketing, especially back in the early days of internet marketing. It was, and still is to some extent, very slimy and manipulative. And I didn't feel like, I don't want to do some of the tactics. Like I'm sure they work, but that just feels like not something I'm interested in doing. It feels like I don't want to go there. And so Kim was able to help me navigate like, no, Tim, you're right. Like, no, Tim, you should actually push into this. I know it feels slimy, but it's not slimy. It's actually just you not valuing the value you have to offer enough, and you're underselling yourself. When you do this, you're actually being honest with your customer about what you're providing. You know, there's some of that going on. There's also some of like, yeah, Tim, don't do that. You're right. That is slimy. That can get into some manipulative areas. So she helped me navigate all that. She taught me how sales funnels work. I still remember she showing me a graph and kind of writing out exactly visually, here's how sales funnels works and email sequences and copywriting is something that was not even on my radar as a skill I needed to develop until she came along and gave me feedback on some of my emails and things like that. And so find someone who has a skill that you want and maybe do a barter. Or if it's not a barter, like in terms of skill for skill, you can still be creative. Like what do they have or what do they have that you want? And what do you have that they want? And how do you work together? How can you serve them? How can you help them get ahead? How can you help them get their ideas out there or accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish? How can you support them in what they're doing in a way that's also mutually beneficial to you? And so Kim Castle was that bartering type of mentorship to me. Later on in my business, again, this is all within like the first few years of my business. The guy who was the partner at the company who said, Tim, we think you should start a business doing for other people what you've done for us, that guy, he also then left that company and started doing his own business coaching and consulting. And I was fortunate to hire him. And by that time, I had a little bit more money that I could invest in something like this. And I remember going to his house because he lived locally and him asking me all these questions about my business, questions that I legitimately didn't even know what he was talking about. And he was too polite to do a face palm in front of me, but he did teach me some very valuable things around profit and loss statements, P&Ls. Like I thought P&Ls were just something like a formality that my CPA needed or something. But he's like, no, Tim, like you need to know your numbers. This is how you understand how your business is working, where the risks are, where the opportunities are, where the blind sides are. Like this is the story of your business in numbers on a piece of paper. And so learning how to use a P&L to actually grow my business and avoid a lot of challenges and mistakes, that was instrumental from this guy named John Herman. Also, he taught me what a SWOT analysis is, SWOT. So an analysis that helps you figure out where your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And doing that analysis is something I still use very actively in my business, not every week or every day or anything, but on an ongoing basis, I'm kind of thinking about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in an analysis type of quadrant like that. He's also the one who told me, Tim, you need to become less Tim-centered and more team-centered, which is also something Lucas has said. I'm like, yes, I know I don't know how to do that. It's so hard, but I'm the one everyone wants to work with. But we were able to do it, be able to introduce personalities and things. And so in my relationship with John, this was a paid relationship, a paid engagement. And so there are legitimate mentorship opportunities available where you're just paying someone. And the thing that stands out to me, I remember sitting on the couch in like this basement living room area where we would use the whiteboards and the flip pads and all that kind of stuff and work through stuff in my business. And I remember at the end of each of those sessions, writing him a check. And those checks for me at that time, I'm sure he was giving me a discount, like, and being really, really, like, for him, it was like probably undervaluing himself. But for me, that was a big amount of money to write a check for. And I remember it hurt. It stung. And each time I'm like, ooh, can I do another session? Do I want to do another session? Like, this is a lot. But what I learned through that is like that pain in writing that check each time and knowing that I was going to have to write out a check for this X amount of money. That's what I needed at that time. I needed that pain to like push me and to challenge me, and that pain to make me feel like, okay, I'm actually going to do what this guy is telling me to do. These action items, these things I need to work on. Like, I pay too much money to just kind of like let these things sit here. And so if you ever find yourself in a place where you can be mentored by someone who's ahead of you and they're going to charge you money for it, even if it's an amount that hurts, sometimes that's a good thing. Now, I'm not telling you to like, take out a whole bunch of credit cards and just go into massive debt or sell your house or whatever you need to do. There's a limit. Like, there is legitimately, like, that's just too much. I can't afford that right now. I'm sure I'll get the value. I get tremendous value, but I can't afford that. That's a legitimate place to be. But if you're at the place like, I think I can afford it, but it's gonna sting a little, that might be a good thing. And that's how it felt with me working with John. And so what I learned with John is not only that about the value of paying enough for it hurts in order to get the benefit out of that mentoring relationship, but I also learned that him is build relationships with people, because you never know what's going to happen. John, I thought, was always going to be at that company. He was one of the founding partners. But when he left, he became available. I'm like, ooh, okay, now our relationship can be different. And now I can engage him on a deeper level than I could while he was working with that other company. So just be proactive and ask and build relationships regardless of whether or not you feel like they're beneficial for you right now, because there might be a day in the future when they will be, and you can engage them on a different level. So this thing about mentoring is something I love doing. I love coaching other people. I mean, I'm the chief creator coach now at vidIQ. My full-time hours are spent just training and helping our team of other full-time coaches coach other people, their content strategy on YouTube. I love doing that. And then I also do on the side just some animated room, because it's a part-time, just side gig that I do, 6 creators that I'll do business coaching with and mentoring with. And I charge money for that. But there's a guy I met named Andrew who figured out how to weasel his way in and trick me into mentoring him for free. And so you're going to hear from him in a second. But the context is Andrew and I met through this mutual industry event. He already knew who I was. I think he had done some research on me. He's like, hey, he wanted to talk. And so we connected and talked, and I loved his energy. At the time, he worked on the ads team at Google, was very successful on that team. We wanted to make a shift from the ads team to the YouTube team. And it's like, I think this guy, Tim Schmoyer, has contacts or can help me, mentor me to get there. And so we started connecting and talking, and I'm still not even sure. I was trying to remember, I was preparing the notes for this episode. I'm like, how did he do that? I'm like, how did he get to a place where he ended up having my cell phone number? And before long, we're texting. And I'm not a huge fan of email and texting. It just feels slow and impersonal to me. And so I much prefer things like Marco Polo, where you can do like video messaging back and forth. And I think it's more face-to-face, more human, and we can watch in double speed and share more of my thoughts and things. And so before long, we moved to Marco Polo for video messaging, and he did all that. And I'm like, how did you do that? So I sent him a video, and I was like, how did you do this? Like, I'm making an episode on mentorship. Like, please explain to us like how you do this. And I asked him to also share some of his thoughts and ideas on these questions. And so here's his response back to me.
Hey, Tim, I am more than happy to help give some insight into how I've found mentors in the past. Yeah, I think that mentorship has been a really important part of my career in both tech and in media. And so I think if people are trying to find mentors, it can be kind of a tricky thing to navigate, right? Because it feels very transactional and like you're asking a lot of someone. So, for the two questions, the how do you like first, how do you find people that can be great mentors? And then how do you get them to actually want to mentor you? I think I got three answers or three things for each of those questions. So for the first one of like how do you find people uh, that will be good mentors? And I think for me, what I've tried to look for is who are the people doing the things that I wish my career will end up looking like. Like if I go on like LinkedIn, for example, is like a phenomenal resource for this. And you just try and look for people that like if I was lucky enough to have this person's career, would I be pretty stoked? And if the answer is yes, and like this is probably someone that could offer a lot of value in terms of questions because you're probably trying to get there. So if you don't know what you want to do, that's probably the first thing to figure out so that you know who actually to seek out for advice on that. And the second thing is gonna be networking. Like you need to do people call them coffee chats, but like I would reach out to people on LinkedIn. I would reach out to people in your space. I would go to events. I would try and make yourself as entrenched in the industry or thing that you're passionate about as possible, whether that's pickleball or YouTube or sports or, whatever finance, whatever your industry is. I would try and be someone that like knows a lot of people in industry because then not only will you have friends from that, but you'll be able to find people that are really successful there. And in fact, a lot of my mentors, I don't think of as like a real transactional relationship. It's kind of like they're just friends, like you. Like you're just a friend that I have that happens to know a lot more in the space than I do, and therefore, like when I have questions, is really beneficial to know. And the third thing is like you gotta be unique in your approach. I feel like successful people are constantly getting messages about wanting to like pick their brains on something or like help them out or be their mentor. And so I would try and find a way to stand out there. Just recently, I had lunch with someone who I would really love if we could stay in contact and have like a biweekly or a monthly. But I didn't say that. I didn't just like ask for like this transactional amount of their time. We had a lunch where they discussed how they wanted to eventually retire in Hawaii. And I happen to have, for a completely different reason, a bunch of postcards from Hawaii from a thing I was working on for a creator. And so right after the lunch, I went home. I wrote them like a thank you handwritten note on the Hawaii postcard, Ubered back to their hotel and dropped it off at the front desk for them to send to their room just as like a thank you. And I don't know what's going to come from that, but like I think that's a very unique little gesture that will stay in that person's mind. And if I need advice or help down the road, I'm sure they'll remember me because. And then on to the getting them to actually be your like mentor themselves, aside from just the unique approach. Um, I think you need to take your time in doing that. I think when people seek out mentorship, they try and go for like the will you be my mentor right away. And it's like any relationship, I think it builds over time. Like with you and me, it was just I had questions about working with creators in the industry, and you were very knowledgeable about what those answers might be. So I would just whenever I had a question here and there, I'd politely reach out, and you were kind enough to give a response. And I think if people see that you're really interested in what you want to discuss with them, people love to feel helpful, right? So I think if you can find a way for that person to be useful and express gratitude for them helping you out, I think that is like a good start for building what might eventually become a mentorship. Um, and also the second thing is don't show them that you need a mentor. I think a lot of people have this perception that a mentor is going to be a make or break in their career or will like be a massive jump start. And they can definitely be useful. But if you're someone who needs a mentor, I think you shouldn't need someone else. You should be the only person that you're relying on for being successful in your career. And a mentor should see that you're going to be successful and they can just be someone who can help accelerate that process. Um, and then for the third thing, cast a wide net, right? Not everyone has the time commitment to be a mentor. Not everyone is going to be a good fit for you personally. Not everyone is going to be able to give great advice, right? Like just because someone's been successful doesn't mean that they're necessarily great at explaining how they became successful, right? There's that old saying that like not every great athlete is a great coach. And so, if you're doing these 6 things, if you're looking for people that you idolize for their career, if you're networking in the industry, if you're being unique with your approach, if you're um, being slow and taking your time with these things, and if you're being tenacious yourself and doing unique things in the space, and eventually you will find someone that is perfect for taking where you're at and where you want to go and accelerating your timeline. And I think mentors are phenomenal for that. So, as always, Tim, I really appreciate you for what you've done for me and the advice that you constantly give me when I have questions. And hopefully, if people can take these 6 things, they can hopefully find themselves a really awesome mentor and hopefully many mentors throughout their careers as well. And then, last thing, be a really good mentor to someone else, right? Like, if you're going to take advantage of people's kindness and knowledge, hopefully, when you have the skill set to help someone else in the future, you can pay it forward. Cheers.
I love it. Andrew, that was so good. Like, so if I go summarize real briefly what I heard from Andrew, it is 1, build relationships with people. Be at those events, be active. Number 2, then be memorable. How do you stand out? How do you serve them? How do you help them with something that they need help with? And then number 3, start with something easy, an easy request. You don't have to go all in on this big mentoring engagement. Start like, how do I serve you? How do I help you? Here's one question I have for you. Okay, great. Following up with a second question, how do you do that? And so when I think about the stories that I've shared from my early days of my business, I think about Andrew shared here, I boil it all down to how do you become the kind of person mentors are excited to help? It comes down to 8 things for you. Number 1, build relationships, go to networking events, engage with them on social media, ask mutual connections to put you in touch. For Andrew, with me, he was excited to be connected with me, and I felt that. I was like, oh, he actually wants to talk with me, and he's listening to everything I say. Number 2, be open to informal mentorships. It doesn't have to be this like sit down official thing. It could just be in their world, be in their orbit. Just listen to them, ask them questions, right? When you can hear something that they're sharing, anyone you can pick up wisdom from, or you think is going to challenge you, just whoever's going to help you do better, just be around them, be informal, open to informal mentorships, which is kind of my relationship with Andrew right now. He's open to that. He's like, can I just ping you when I need something? And that's kind of how it's been going. Number 3, always express gratitude. Andrew didn't say this, but he does this to me in most messages. He's just thankful for me. He's very regularly, he'll say something like, Tim, I know you're busy. I know you got a lot going on. Here's something that's going on with me right now. I love your feedback. Well, how would you answer this question? I'm going to do this or the other thing. And he's like, but take your time to reply. I know you got a lot going on. And I appreciate that he's being respectful, he's being gracious, and he's always very thankful and appreciative whenever I reply. He's just like, thank you so much. Lots of heart emojis and prayer thank you emojis and stuff like that. Number 4, be flexible. Go out of your way to be available to them, to flex your schedule around their schedule, to use their communication preferences. Like, I don't know if Andrew uses Marco Polo that much, except for he knows that's how I use it. And so when he reaches out to me, he's using Marco Polo. Be present where they're present. One thing that stood out to me about Andrew is we're at an industry event thing last year, and I had a dinner with the vidIQ team that was there, and I invited him, hey, come join us if you want. And so he went out of his way. He already had other plans, but he canceled those other plans to make sure he could come be present at this dinner with us, with the vidIQ team. And so, be flexible, go out of your way, cancel other meetings, do whatever you need. If that person invites you to something, like, yes, I'm going to show you that I'm going to show up and I'm going to be there. Number 5, show initiative and drive. Mentors are generally more willing to invest their time into you when you're demonstrating that you have ambition, that you're proactive. Andrew clearly wants to do something big in the creator economy. He really wants to go and make an impact. And I can see that in him, and the questions he's asking and the things that he's got most and the place he's got spinning and the things he's trying to engage with. I can see he's got that drive. He's taking initiative and trying to make big things happen. Number 6, offer value. If it's not in a barter type of thing, that's fine. But can you just give them a postcard to Hawaii, or how can you give back? Even in this episode, Andrew's giving back to me. And I asked him, like, hey, will you be part of this episode? He was like 100% yes. And not only was it 100% yes, but he's like, Tim, as soon as I sent him the text, I got a text right back and it said, Like, yeah, I can't do this right now, but can you give me 30 minutes? I'll go home and I'll do this in a place with better lighting and better sound and give you something better that I can do right here. I'm like, dude, take a few days. That's fine. Like, I don't need the next 30 minutes, but I appreciate the initiative. I appreciate the drive, right? I'm going to record it in a few days anyway, so just take your time. And he did, and it was great. Number 7, be coachable. Like, actually listen. Show this person that you're humble, that you're willing to learn, and that you actually do what they recommend. Like, actually do it. Don't just like listen and be like, okay, that's a good idea. I can see where you're going with that. No, like, do it. When I'd say, Andrew, here's what I would do in that situation. He's like, great, I'm going to go do that right now. And then number 8, report back. Tell them the results that you're getting. Like, here's what happened. I did what you said. And it's not, even if the results like don't feel like they're that great, what's more important to this person that's mentoring you is that you're taking initiative, you're trying, and you're showing and giving them evidence that you're trying, that you're taking swings at bat on this thing. And so that you're taking their advice. And even if you didn't experience the result that you're hoping to get, like, that's just important to help them know that you are working on this. You're trying and you're driving towards this. Andrew does that even when the results aren't super positive, even when they're not what he's hoping for. He'll be like, hey, Tim, this is where we're at. This is what happened. If you find yourself as a creator right now who wants coaching and mentorship in your business, I have one spot available. I do vidIQ full time and love doing that. Chief creator coach there. So if you're looking for like coaching on like how to grow your channel and on content strategy and things like that, go to vidiq.com/coaching, and we have a full team of coaches who are ready to help you with your content strategy part of your channel. But if you're looking for the coaching on the business side of your channel, about growing a team, about P&Ls, about SWOT analysis, about changing from advertising to product-driven type of marketing and your sales funnels and email and copy and all that kind of stuff, whatever it is about the business side of your channel, I'd love to consider coaching you and mentoring you in that. You can go to timschmoyer.com, and on the website there, you'll see a little button that says apply for coaching. I already told you I don't like email and text messaging and things. So my assistant, Caitlin, will see your application come through, and she'll be in touch with next steps with you when it comes to growing the business side of your YouTube channel to fill that one more spot I have as of this recording right now. And if you have a question about anything going on in your creator business, I'd love for you to submit a voice message, and I love doing episodes like this. I feel like I'm actually helping someone. I feel like, oh, okay, Jordan, here you go. I can help you with this. I got some ideas, some thoughts. Hopefully they're helpful, some practical tips for you. But if you're in a similar spot and you've got something that you think would be a great episode, go to creatorbusinesslab.com or link in the show notes and tap that link and just record the audio voice message on computer or phone, whatever it is. You don't need to download any apps or anything. Super easy to do right there in the web browser. So check that out. And reviews. If you got a review for me on Apple Podcasts, apparently that really helps. I love reading them, even if they don't. They're so helpful and fun. So thank you guys for doing all that. And I really look forward to serving you and your business the best way I can. And hopefully this has been helpful for you. Thank you guys for being here. And I'll see you again next time for another Creator Business Labs podcast episode. See you then.